is now. Okay, well, I'm going to assume we're live because I had another screen here that was telling me otherwise. But welcome everybody. Hey, Capt Ron here again for another thrilling episode of Fearless Flight Live with my cohort Diane Hansen and a special guest down there, Robert Navarez. And welcome to both of you. And nice to have you, Bob. And we're just going to go right into this. Robert flew with us, went through the class. Tonight's going to be mostly about the 201 301 because since I just launched that we're going to do an Orange County class, which is going to be the first one since 2019 before COVID when we got shut down over there. So anyway, so we're going to talk to Robert and get his experiences and whatnot. And if you have any questions, put them in the, well, you can't even put them in the chat because we don't have our ace technician here. He is over in Austria visiting his folks. His dad has been taken ill with cancer, and so he went over to make a visit there with his family and whatnot. And on that subject, a sad note, Eric will not be here tonight. Eric did in fact chokes me up. He lost his wife on Sunday night, I believe it was. She passed, and so we wanted to extend our well wishes to Eric. And he's doing as best as anyone could expect. And he had a couple of funny anecdotes, if it were, when she was just before she lost consciousness. And one of the things that he said he's got to do is she would kick his butt if he doesn't participate in the class in Orange County. So Eric and Diane are both going to be down there in Orange County when we fly on the 5th there, and they'll be probably join us on the webinars there. So anyway, well, Robert or Bob, let's just you inundated me with, after you got the email announced in the class about coming on, or about how much you benefited since then. So what, like we already established, you did that in 2019. What got you into the class in 2019?
Well, probably like a lot of people, I avoided flying for a lot of years. And do you mind if I give a little bit of background on me so people kind of?
No, not at all.
Well, let me tell you a little bit about me. I'm a police chief. I just retired about 2 months ago, and I was like a typical cop. I worked patrol. I worked narcotics undercover. I worked in SWAT. Served a lot of search warrants. I did a lot of dangerous things, right? And so I was the kind of guy, cops, nothing frightens me. And then about 17, 18 years ago, I started developing panic attacks and anxiety initially, and then I started having panic attacks. And little by little, I started to be avoidant of certain behaviors that I associated with my anxiety or panic attacks. And some of those things were driving with people, driving by myself, being in elevators, public speaking, and as you might imagine, tied into this, flying, because I felt very anxious in a flight one time. And so what I did was, like a lot of people that develop phobias, I just avoided it. And the more I avoided it, the stronger the fear became, the stronger I would resist any offer of going in that direction. And I'd find all kinds of creative ways to get around it. And eventually I just got to the point where I just, in my mind, I created this rule, and I said, I don't fly. And I would use John Madden, because I knew John Madden was kind of like right. He's a football guy, right? I mean, everybody, you can't speak ill of John Madden, because you got to turn in your man card if you do. And so I would just say, hey, I'm just like John Madden. I just don't fly. And so that became my rule, right? And so life was fine, but I had a problem. My wife has always wanted me to take her to Europe. Well, I haven't been able to find any bus rides or train trips over there, so that's always been off in the corner of my mind. And so I'm kind of on the hook for that. Well, last year, right before the class that I went to in Burbank, my wife scheduled a family trip in Disney World with all of my family. And so now I've got this thing that I want to be part of, right? But I don't fly. So I had quite a challenge on my hands. that I had to resolve. And so just like I did with public speaking, because I overcame that also through Toastmasters, I started searching the internet and I found you. And I said, this is for me. I've got to do this. And since then, I've gone on, I don't know, I lost track, 14 flights. And wow. And my anxiety level is probably on a scale of 1 to 10, because I always chart things like this. I'm at maybe about a 1 or a 2, and really it's mostly anticipatory anxiety. Once I get on the plane, it's pretty much gone. Yeah. So that's my story.
And did you get to Europe yet?
Well, no. Well, I'm going. I'm going, Ron. It's just COVID has created some challenges with that. Right. But I got some other flights that I'm going to be taking in the near future related to a job opportunity that presented itself, and I'll get to that later on.
Yeah. So when you took the class, the COVID's kind of gotten me off of my butt, and so we're going to do the classes now via webinar. It's going to be a lot more content there, because we don't have to get through in the morning to go catch the airplane in the afternoon like we did when you flew with us out of Burbank. And I think it's going to be a better deal, and I'm expecting to engage with the people a lot more, even outside the classes and whatnot there. But what were some of the things that you learned that helped you? Do you remember?
Oh yeah. No, I take really good notes, Captain Ron. So for me, because I'm a cop, so my whole world is evidence-based. Right? Yeah. Don't just tell me your opinion, show me. And when you had the gentleman came in, I think he's a statistician or something, right?
Yeah. His name is Arnold Burnett, and he is a statistician, and he specializes in fear of flying statistics, because he was, or how safe it is to fly, because he was a fearful flyer himself. Yeah.
Right. And so for him, or for me, his words were, in other words, so if I need so much evidence in order for me to get to a certain verdict that I'm looking for, once he got through about 10 minutes of his information sharing, to me, it was like guilty as charged. The point that you're trying to make, you made it a long time ago. And so he just kept adding to the information. And I thought, what he's saying makes sense. Why am I avoiding flying? Really, if anything, I should be avoiding driving. So I developed a new phobia of driving, so I don't drive anymore. I'm just kidding. I still drive. But just statistically, what he said made absolute sense. And so that ties into, so I moved to Henderson, Nevada. And I don't know if this is heaven sent or what, but I live in a flight path now, which is awesome, because I got planes flying.
You're right under 2.6.
Every 30 seconds or so, I don't know, you tell me the math, about less than every minute, there is a plane flying right over my house. Yeah. And I have Flight Radar app. And so I'm able to see where these planes are coming from. So it's evidence. Yeah. I've been living there forever. I've never seen a plane wreck. So that just solidifies the fact, the truth, that flying in a plane is way the heck more safe than driving in a car or a train or anything.
Yeah. Right. And we've talked about the probabilities. And when Arnold came over that time, I had been following him since like 2007 or so, when I saw the first, he gave a presentation at MIT for the Sloan group, or whoever it was up there. And so I just called him. I thought, what are the odds of him paying attention to little old me and coming out there? And it turns out he has a daughter that lives in the LA area. And so he said, well, he said, I could just combine a trip out there. And so he did. It was really gracious of him. And I agree. He's just a really warm and remarkable guy. But he had changed, because when I first saw his numbers, he was advertising 1 in 11 million. And then he made the distinction. He did this right after 9/11. And he said, even if you factor in 9/11, it's still way up there. Well, by the time he came over in that class there, the industry had gotten even safer, and now it was up to, and he separated between tier 1, 2, and 3. He did allow for some highly industrialized countries like the United States, Western Europe, Japan, China, and whatnot. He calls those tier 1 carriers, and those are now 1 in 33.2 million is your odds of dying at that, and even the tier 3 countries like Mexico, some of the Mexican airlines, things like that, they're way above what we were 30 years ago. you know, so because it's filtered through the system, because everybody knows it's bad for business if you kill your passengers, you know.
Yeah,
so,
you don't want to do it.
They don't come back.
They don't come back. Yeah,
and neither do their families. But you know, what's funny is, so he gave stats, right? And he talked about how now the technology won't allow a plane to get within a certain distance, both in height and whatever that is, you know the language. So I checked them, because there's been times on Flight Radar, and by the way, I'm addicted to this app. My wife mocks me because I will sit in my backyard looking at this Flight Radar app, and I've checked because I see planes that look, in my estimation, they look pretty close, but I will check, and sure enough, they don't ever get within a certain distance of each other. They stay away. And so you've got humans that are doing it, and you got technology that's making sure that it doesn't happen.
When in my career, when I started as a student pilot at Williams Air Force Base over here in east of Phoenix, they didn't even have altitude encoding radar. So you couldn't. It was 6 months into my pilot training that they came out with that feature. So then that put a tag on everybody's blurb on the radar, or dot on the radar, and it told them their altitude, and that revolutionized things, because at least the controllers could do that. And then it was the system you're talking about is called TCAS, Traffic Collision and Avoidance Radar, and it takes the radar beam that we're getting from the controller, and it processes it through a black box on the airplane, and it talks to the controller, and it talks to other airplanes in the vicinity. So we have, Eric calls it fondly, a fish finder. So we have this little thing that they mount in there where you get a display, so you can see other airplanes that are in your vicinity as well. And it's constantly computing that so even with the radar separation, if somebody should get in there somehow, it automatically works out a resolution. So the first thing, you'll just get an arrow on the screen. It'll start flashing like amber from green, and so that gets your attention. Then you watch, and it may say climb or descend or something like that. And then ultimately, if it doesn't see a resolution, then you get an oral warning as well, and it says climb or climb immediately, or descend. And what it does, of course, is it resolves it. You know, has one go up and one go down, and it's just another amazing piece of equipment or technology that we have. So so it really does. The statistics, if you draw the line tragically at that Southwest accident several years ago, or incident where the lady was forced out of the window when the turbine blade or the compressor blade failed, the odds are really now 1 in 120 million. So the problem is, as humans, our brain can't wrap around that. It thinks of possibilities. So people out there say, yeah, but I could be the one, you know, and that's just the way we operate. But
it's, for me, Ron, I attribute it's like crime, right? So you see a certain crime happens in Fresno, because people will, I'll tell them, hey, I worked in Fresno for years, and people will say, wow, that's a really dangerous city. And I think to myself, well, not really. I never was in a, other than when at work, but generally speaking, it's a pretty safe city. Well, no, I saw that you guys had this murder and that murder on TV. Well, yeah, because nobody reports on 99.9% of the time when everything goes fine. So they're just seeing that one negative thing. That's the only thing. Every day, those flights that fly into McCarran International, nobody writes a paper or does a story on those, right?
Exactly.
Or no headline today that says, hey, yesterday we had 105,000 airplanes, commercial airplanes, took off and landed safely in the world, and it's, and I try not to be really negative about it, not blame it on the newspapers, because that's what we want to look at. We want to look at things that catch our attention. And it is unfortunate. And there's a thing called confirmation bias. So if I believe inherently that flying is dangerous, now I'm going to pick and choose those things out there that support that. So anyway. Yeah. So when I would say you had a pretty dramatic changeover after you got done, right? I mean, some people it's a little bit, but did you have any anxiety following, or?
Well, the flight that we took from Burbank to Oakland, I probably got up to about a 4 during the flight, but I got distracted because the lady next to me got up to about a 9, and so I was distracted trying to comfort her. But when we flew back, she was a lot better. I noticed that her anxiety level had gone down significantly. And so for me, I'm the kind of guy, when I make up my mind I'm going to do something, and really, for me, there was a certain amount of pain associated with not being included in fun things, right? And so that's right. That's what life's all about, is pain and pleasure. And so I wanted to experience that pleasure. And so immediately after, in fact, right after that flight, I don't like roller coasters either, and I'm avoidant of roller coasters. I took a flight.
You're going to take my roller coaster riding course.
Do you have one for that too?
I will do that. Yeah. We'll
you
do that.
probably don't know that for my 73rd birthday, I went skydiving. So you probably
okay. Now that's just crazy.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
I'm not going to disagree.
Good for you. That's awesome. Yeah. So I took a flight from San Diego to Las Vegas. And because I didn't want to extend my time away from that thing that had caused me fear. I wanted to show fear that you no longer occupy my life. I'm going to take it back and I'm going to keep it. And so I took that flight from San Diego to Las Vegas. Before I went on the flight from San Diego to Las Vegas, I got on one of those wooden roller coasters because the other kind wasn't enough. I needed something rickety that made a lot of noise. It was dramatic.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So I did that right before because I just wanted to tell fear, you no longer control my life. I control my life. There's a place for you in dangerous situations, but generally speaking, I don't need you in my life. And so I've continued to do that. Like I said, I've taken several, but in fact, another flight that I just took was to the East Coast to see my son graduate from Army basic training. And I cannot imagine if I would have not gone on that trip and not have experienced watching him graduate. There's so much patriotism in the air at that event. And so I did that. And then I flew all the way back and now I'm getting ready to fly to Central America for my next adventure.
That's awesome.
Wow, that's cool.
Fantastic.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What can I ask what the attraction is in Central America?
Well, it's kind of interesting. After I retired from Delano, I got a call from a U.S. government agency asking me to take a position in training police officers from other countries. Yeah. And so when they asked me that, I said, wow, like what countries? And he started naming off all these countries in the Northern Triangle and Central America. And thought process, I'm just telling you what my thoughts were, but I don't fly. That thought came into my awareness. Yeah. And so when that thought came into my awareness, I immediately told myself, I'm not going to say no, because I don't want to say it out of fear. If the answer is no, it's not going to be out of fear.
Right.
So long story short, I'm moving forward in the process. And if everything goes smoothly, then I will be working out of a foreign country in Central America, providing that training. So, but if I wouldn't have allowed fear to stay in my life, the answer would have been no, and it would have been no for the wrong reason.
Yeah. Well, based on your youthful appearance, you probably got a lot of flights left in you, or at least.
well, I think I do. I'm 57, and I still feel like I have something in the tank. But really, I wouldn't do just anything, because I had planned on retiring and just working on my golf game. But this opportunity presented itself. I didn't go looking for it. And I think it's a good opportunity, and it's also going to give me a great chance to fly. But one thing I do have a little anxiety over is flying over bodies of water. Okay. So this will cause me to go over both the Atlantic and the Pacific Ocean, right? Being that I'm in the right over the middle. Like what other place could I get over two bodies of water, right? Other than Panama.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a fairly common fear for people. What do you want to share with people? What thoughts, or what's the story you tell yourself about that, other than the obvious one? Yeah.
So there's all kinds of dumb rules that we establish, Ron. I used to be in charge of the air support unit in Fresno. Okay. I was in charge of helicopters, and I would get into an Enstrom. I forget the number, what it was. It was an Enstrom helicopter with no doors. No doors.
Yeah. Right.
With one pilot and 2 seats. And he would lean that thing sideways, and I would hang out the window and look down at the ground. I was not afraid of that. You know why? Because I was his boss. Yeah. And if at any time I felt anxious, I just tell him to drop to land the helicopter.
So you were still in control.
I was in control. You better believe it. I was his boss.
So, but that's a big psychological aspect to this, is being in an aircraft, is you're not in control. But in this case, you were in control.
Exactly right. Exactly. So this for me is control. Absolutely. So in my mind, I'd lose control once I go into the plane, because all these people here are not going to do anything I say. Right. And the other part of being in control is, I'm, a deputy chief or a chief of police. I'm in a high-ranking position, and how embarrassing if somehow I were to do something like have a panic attack in front of everybody and show my weakness, right? I can't do that. And so in my mind, I guess I kind of logicked flying over land. Well, if things got really bad, right, I guess it could land this right in the middle of the Midwest, which is really dumb logic, right?
Right.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But certainly over a body of water, I'm really out of luck. They're not landing the thing in the ocean for me.
Right.
So I think that's a little rule that I've made up, which is a really dumb rule, but that I believe is the issue.
Huh.
But again, that's what the brain does. When it doesn't know, it makes something up. And so we all get sucked into that. I mean, I got things that I make up, you know, and when my dad used to come and visit me, and he'd fly in and he would tell me stories about what happened, and him telling other people. And I would say, Dad, you don't even have a clue. That has nothing to do with what was going on, you know, but it's just what we do. That's part of what they call our elephant brain. It will make it, you know, to feel in control, basically.
Yes.
You know, and we got a lot of that going in the political side of the country right now. Everybody's got their own idea what's going on. But and that we'll talk about that in the class and stuff like that. It's going to be interesting to me versus getting people in there in the morning and then put them right on an airplane like we did out there. They're going to have the whole month to think about it. And I think it's going to be better because when I coach people and they say, what's the best thing I can do? I say, go schedule a flight. You know, put it on the calendar, because then you gotta face it sooner or later.
Yes.
And I'm really thinking it's going to be an improvement for people to be exposed right on a regular basis over the month leading up to the flight, and then we all meet up down there. We'll kind of know each other. We'll have some bonding, you know, get to know people like we do in the classroom. And I'm really excited about seeing the results on here. So anyway,
absolutely.
Yeah. So anyway, if you want to stay with us, I just got a couple of things we're going to talk about on the show. If you want to hang in there, or feel free to leave. It's up to you, and voice your opinion. And let me just put the slides up on the screen here. Okay, so there we are, and I skipped the introduction tonight, but of course we are Fearless Flight, and this is for anybody who is afraid to fly, or knows somebody it's afraid to fly, or just maybe wants to hang around people talking about airplanes. We always mention, put a plug in for our Fearless Flight Birds of a Feather private Facebook group. Gosh, we had a whole bunch of people climb this week. We're probably approaching 850 now, and we've reached that critical mass where there's a lot of mutual support, like formation flying, mutual protection and support. So I really encourage people to join that. The Takeoff 1 class, a reminder for anybody out there who has enrolled, had a great response to people out there, and we're going to begin Module 1 on October 7th. All of you who are enrolled in the class are going to be, you'll get plenty of notice and the links to the Zoom meetings and whatnot. And if you're out there and you still have any interest at all, email me at Captain Ron, CAPTRON @fearlessflight.com. Past that, there's a picture of Bob. That's a great picture. I had to put that up there, and that'll go with posterity there. And because of the success of this, even though we haven't started the class yet, I've had a lot of people say, "Hey, I'm in for Phoenix. If you can do that," and I may have to table. I was going to try to do 3 of these or 2 outside of Phoenix. I may only get the one in Orange County and the one in Phoenix because we're rapidly approaching the end of the year. But if you find yourself and you are going to be in the Phoenix area in November, and then we're going to fly. Most likely on Saturday, December 11th, that's going to be our next class like this. We're going to do it online for the classroom portion, and then we're going to meet at the Phoenix Airport and do the 301 class. If you're interested, leave us a note, send me an email, CaptainRon@fearlessflight.com, and because I'm gathering interest right now and pretty serious about putting it together in this next week or so. We want to talk a little bit. Diane had a trip last couple of days, I think.
Yesterday.
Diane?
Yesterday.
Yeah. Yesterday. And she went into an airport in the Jackson Hole. I'm going to let her talk about it because many of you find turbulence is a cumbersome thing to deal with. And I should have put Grand Teton up there is what I should have done. Which is it's one of the most beautiful airports in the entire world. When you land there, off your right wing, you always land to the south. Off the right wing is the Grand Teton, and it's just gorgeous. Anyway, I wanted to say just a couple of words about the special airports, and what that means is there are certain airports that are identified as any pilot can go into them, but the airlines, the FAA has added an additional requirement that we familiarize ourselves with the unique aspects of that airport. It might be a takeoff departure. It might be terrain around the area, and that's usually what it is. It might be winds. And going into Jackson Hole, you've got all of those. You've got the winds swirling around there, and you've got the high terrain around there. So Diane went in there yesterday, and I was asking her about the turbulence. So what was it like, Diane, when you went in there yesterday?
It was not too bad. The pilots always, the captain gives the flight attendants a briefing. We have a briefing, all four of us on our aircraft before any trip, and we talk about what we're anticipating, the altitude, the length of the flight, whether or not there is an expectation of some turbulence, bounces wherever, and all those kinds of things. And so okay. I've flown into Jackson Hole before, as well as Aspen and Vail. We fly into Eagle. And as Ron said, those are specific airports where additional qualifications and more training, additional training for those specific kinds of circumstances. And so the briefings when we go into those airports always include, there's going to be, they'll ask, have you ever flown into this airport before? And normally we have. So we know that we're going to have probably a little bit more turbulence because, as Ron said, and Jackson Hole, oh my goodness, it had just snowed and it was blue sky. When we got there, it was about 45 degrees. There was snow in the mountains and the Tetons. It was absolutely magnificent. It was pretty bouncy coming in, not real bad. But I have flown into Aspen and it has been real bouncy. So we know what to expect, and the pilots will try to make that announcement to our passengers of what to expect. Very often those passengers have flown in and out of there before. And it's becoming more important now because we're coming to fall and winter. People are going to be booking their tickets to go skiing and to enjoy all of the activities that the Rockies have to offer. And individuals who do that need to understand that weather plays a big part always in aviation. Yeah. But weather in the winter in the Rockies really can create an interesting, shall we say, experience. And so very often those flights are delayed, they may be canceled. And so individuals need to understand that is the normal course of how it goes when you're flying into those kinds of airports where there is a very specific and very structured approach, a little bit steeper, they're surrounded by mountains, a lot of different things that Ron can address. So it's the same sort of thing that occurs in Phoenix and Arizona in the Southwest in the summer when it's very, very hot and those hot air columns come up and create a lot of bump for us in Phoenix or in New Mexico or in Nevada. And so there are different parts of the country where you just need to know that different times of the year it's going to be, it may be a little bit bumpier. And so just to be prepared for those kinds of things. Yeah.
Would turbulence trigger you or was that one of the things or not so much?
You know, what's interesting is I was talking to my son about this last night. Turbulence actually, this is another weird rule. It kind of gives me a reason for me to be anxious, so I don't feel so bad if I'm anxious because
got it.
I should be anxious. The plane's bouncing, so in a way, it kind of provides a little bit of comfort. But to answer your question, no, not really.
Yeah.
No, I'm not worried about the plane crashing.
Yeah.
If you'd give me a handle, a steering wheel on the plane, even though I don't know what I'm doing, I think I'd feel a lot better.
Yeah, like the carts at the grocery store, right, where they have the little kids with the steering wheels in it. Maybe we should put that in as a suggestion for the airlines for their.
I'm going to do that.
get everybody a wheel that goes on
Give
the
me one
back
of
of the
those.
seat in front of them.
Oh dear.
And we could do a PA say, okay, everybody pull back, and we'll get everybody supported.
Yeah, just make it worse for the flight attendants. Yeah, I can.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Regarding turbulence, not many, but there are a few people that they actually get freaked out if the flight is super smooth. Because it's like Twilight Zone for them, it's like, wait a minute, we can't be doing anything, this can't be right. And so there are a few people out there that actually enjoy the turbulence. And of course, all the 8 years old on your airplanes are going to do that. They're the ones that, wee, and everybody wants to strangle them. So,
yeah.
So
I
anyway.
think I mentioned that a couple of shows ago, that I was aft and I had about an 8 or 9 or 10-year-old little boy who was flying unaccompanied. And we had a real bumpy flight. And same thing, just as you said, Ron, we'd bump, and he'd go, wow, this is so much fun. And I thought, I said, can I just take you and just show you because sitting back, I could see all the hands on the armrests. They were like this. And I thought, I want to take this kid to all of the rest of my passengers.
Yeah, I've got some video of this 8-year-old somewhere. It was just hilarious to watch him here. Right. Let me see. Let me go back. I just want to remind everybody that the two things that we've got coming up are the next. Whoops, gotta go forward here. Oh, this makes me go back all the time. I don't like that. Unless I can, no, I can't cheat. I have to run through all the slides. Come on. Okay, so the next Cleared for Takeoff 101 class at the Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport is going to be on Saturday, October 2nd. And we run that class from 7 to 9. And if you, again, anybody in the Phoenix area, starting to see increases in the number of people. Again, they pretty much forgot about us over the last 14 months. But we're doing that class. And with any luck, I'll also try to broadcast that over Facebook. And then the next morning on October 12th at 11 o'clock Pacific and 2 o'clock in the Eastern time zone, we'll do the webinar that I do every month. So the next two events here are other than the 201-301 class series, are going to be the live class in Phoenix on the 11th, and then the webinar online on the 12th. So we're glad that you could everybody could join us here tonight. And Bob, again, a special thanks for you volunteering and coming to join us and tell us your tales there. Interesting, and a real living proof that people can put their mind to this and get over it. And
absolutely.
Yeah. And
thank you, Ron.
You're welcome. And it really is when you look at psychotherapy stuff, it's a really relatively short-term fix. It doesn't take a lot of effort. Mm-hmm. It's one of the most successfully treated phobias there are out there. So if you have any interest in stay with us, if you're out there, regardless, stay connected to Fearless Flight. And I want to thank you again, Bob. Thanks, Diane. And we'll see all of you next week. We appreciate you joining us. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. And have a great evening.
Bye, everybody.
Okay.